Welcome to the ArmaniTalks YouTube channel. I'm your host, ArmaniTalks. In this channel, I'm covering communication skills for you to level up your way with words, become much more articulate. In today's episode, we're going to be talking about personal branding 101, and we're going to be talking about why being authentic is way harder than it looks. In 2012, there was this radio host that was taking the world by storm. His name was Charlemagne the God, and he was the radio host for a popular show called The Breakfast Club. The reason that Charlemagne was so popular was because he was one of those tell it like it is kind of guys. He would call rappers corny straight to their face. He made a few people cry, and he would ask questions that a lot of the other hosts were scared to ask. Soon, Charlemagne began to be known as that guy. And Breakfast Club's ratings were skyrocketing. Okay? 10 years goes on by, and what begins to happen was that Charlemagne starts to evolve in many ways. During those 10 years, for a certain period, he was struggling with mental health issues, and he was seeking a lot of therapy. As he was talking it out with his therapist, Charlemagne came to learn that one of the reasons that he was so nasty towards other people was because he had a very poor relationship with his father. And in some ways, he was taking out that aggression towards other people. After understanding why he was behaving like this, he began to calm down more. Nowadays, he still worked in the Breakfast Club, but he was no longer that negative guy. He was one of those guys that was typically trying to impart wisdom into the new generation. He was talking more about mental health awareness, and he was giving more people their flowers. But roughly around the 2016 mark, he was having this heated interview with this up-and-coming rapper who was making his name from hate content. This up-and-coming rapper kept going viral for everything but rapping. He was doing these pranks. He was calling people out. He was insulting dead people. I mean, sure, he was getting the clicks, but at what cost? This is when Charlemagne looked at this up-and-coming rapper and said, look, my friend, you're over here spreading so much negative energy. Why don't you just focus on the music? That is what is going to turn you from good to great. And this up-and-coming rapper was saying, who are you to tell me this, Charlemagne? You are the king of negativity. And once the up-and-coming rapper said this to Charlemagne, you could tell that it caught Charlemagne off guard. He's like, what? People can't grow? And you want to know something? This up-and-coming rapper was not the only guy that called out Charlemagne for his past bad behavior. To this day, what happens is that even though Charlemagne has evolved, if you ever go on TikTok, for example, a lot of his old school interviews are nowadays getting clipped and is getting posted on TikTok. It's going viral, and people are disgusted. That sort of content could have flied in 2012, but nowadays, people don't like content like that too much. They like it in private, but in public, they're putting on their capes. They're saying, if I was Charlemagne, I would never talk to someone like that, right? So he's getting judged for content he did over a decade ago. Now, as a guy that's been watching Breakfast Club for over a decade, I can say that, yes, Charlemagne used to be like that, but he's different now. The question is, which Charlemagne was real? This is why authenticity is so difficult, because it's easy to tell someone, hey, you're trying to build a personal brand. Well, the first thing you need to do is you just need to be yourself. But being yourself is not a command. It's a process. It's very similar to cooking. Let's say someone does not know how to cook, and I say, look, fam, all you need to do is just cook. And I say it. Cook. I say it again. Cook. They're not doing it. I'm getting angry. I'm saying, why aren't you cooking? And that's when they respond back, because I don't know how. And that is when I have to teach them the process of cooking for them to execute the command. Very similar with authenticity. It's very easy to say, just be yourself. But the question is, how do you discover yourself? And the thing is, it's very similar to Charlemagne's process. The Charlemagne's process is something that I call the cringe factor. I mean, he cringes watching back at his old content, and that cringe alerts his body, hey, that's who you used to be, but you must change right now. And in that polarity of negative to positive is where he discovers his true self. One thing that I do with this channel routinely is I try to watch back my content. Not the content that I just made. I'm talking about the first ever videos on this channel. And I too am facing that, man, this is not right, man. I'm feeling cringe. But the cringe is good because it showcases growth. And this is very similar in the personal branding world to me not just commanding this person to cook. Instead, I'm rolling up my sleeves and I'm teaching this person to cook. Cook and sitting through the cringe, understanding which moments you do not like about yourself at all, just like Charlemagne doesn't like that old self of him, will help you discover your true self. And that's why I say authenticity is way harder than it looks, because rather than looking at the outside world too much, you're forced to look at the person across the mirror. And you can't just see the good parts of the person across the mirror. You gotta look at the bad parts too. Charlemagne is still continuing to grow and is still continuing to discover, who the hell am I? And this is why personal branding is not just about building an audience with others, building influence with others. It's more so about building an influence with yourself. Thank you very much for joining the ArmaniTalks YouTube channel, and I'll catch you next time.